Alright, let's talk about The Evil Within 2 in 2021. Now, I know for some of you, you're probably wondering, how did I never play The Evil Within 2? A game that came out in 2017, and the follow-up for the very popular The Evil Within. The Evil Within, the love letter to the Resident Evil game franchise, directed by Shinji Mikami himself. It was a very good game. I liked it a lot. I played it quite a few times, streamed it quite a few times for you guys. Follow me on twitch.tv/retroordie to see more. But the reason why I waited so long to play The Evil Within 2 is because when the trailer dropped for the game, and I saw that the game's story took like a very unexpected turn, in my opinion, focusing on Sebastian's family that was never once mentioned in the first game whatsoever, and him trying to rescue his daughter. I thought it was a very stupid idea, to be honest. I was like, okay, I really don't need to play a lesser version of The Evil Within with a lesser story and just trying to recycle the same things that we saw, the shock value that we saw within The Evil Within. Fast forward to 2021, it comes out and is free on Xbox Game Pass, and I have the Xbox Series X, and it got a major overhaul for the Xbox Series X, so I decided to play it finally. And wow, I was not disappointed. I've been playing this game now on and off for about 2 weeks because, you know, I can't sit and play games now that I've gone back to work. I just beat it. My first playthrough, 22 hours, a little over 22 hours. Most of that because of exploration. This game hit very hard in the exploration department. Looking through every nook and cranny, trying to find collectibles, trying to upgrade your weapons, killing every single enemy you can possibly find to collect the green goo. It was something that played very much into my OCD nature when it comes to games, my RPG nature when it comes to games. And I love that when it's in horror games. I loved it in Resident Evil 4, I loved it in The Evil Within, and I really loved it in The Evil Within 2. Let's talk about the story. So the story, like I said, it was something I was not expecting whatsoever. Sebastian Cole, the detective from the first game, comes out of STEM. Years later, I might add, many years later, we find out that he has a family that died in a fire in their house. Or his daughter died in a fire in their house. Turns out the daughter didn't die. She was taken by members of STEM, or Morpheus or Mobius or whatever. It's one of those names. And the game story is kind of weird. It's very tropey, a matter of fact, is like for horror movies and horror games. It hits on every key element when you think of a horror game. You're like, okay, they're gonna have the part where you guide someone through and have to protect them while they do something for you. You're gonna have the cheesy one-liners. You're gonna have the one comedic black dude in the horror movie. You're gonna have it hits on all of these things. And funny enough is that as I played through the story, the story definitely made a lot more sense this time. It felt very much like I was playing through a twisted version of The Matrix, if that makes any sense, because the whole STEM project and Mobius or whatever, it's very much like The Matrix, just a very darker setting. So all the creatures and monsters are within your mind and also within the other minds of the people that are connected to the system. So Sebastian finds out that not only is his daughter not dead, Kidman's not dead, and this company, Morbius or Morpheus or whatever, that has kidnapped Sebastian's daughter. Kidman's been working with them also the whole time. They've been watching Sebastian this whole time. No one believes Sebastian's story about anything that happened over at Beacon, anything with the crazy monsters, or anything with the one guy that was in STEM in the first game. Nothing. No one believes him. So it drives him to alcoholism. He thinks his daughter's dead. His wife leaves him and disappears. And then he's finally approached by the company that stole his daughter to go back into STEM and save her, and bring her out of STEM because she's the core of the system and they need her power or whatever. So why do they need her power? Why is Sebastian's daughter so special? I couldn't really tell you. So that's the thing we're going to explain more in the end. I know this video kind of sounds like I'm just rambling, but there's a lot to unpack here as far as the plot holes of the story and why things are the way they are in the game. But let's talk about the main things. The game is fun. If I was on a scale of 1 to 10, I'd probably give it a solid 7. Maybe a 6.5, but a 7 for sure. No more and no less than that. The game, obviously, I played it for 22 hours. A lot of it was grind work and exploration. Now, what do I mean by grind work? In the game, you upgrade your abilities, and the only way you can do that is by killing enemies and collecting the green goo. If you played The Evil Within, you know what I'm talking about. You kill enemies, green booger juice stuff, slime comes out of them, you collect it, and somehow you can upgrade yourself that way. Another part of the upgrade system is collecting weapon parts to upgrade all of your guns and ammo and everything else. So a lot of the game for me was running around and killing enemies and collecting things. Did I have to do this to beat the game? No. I didn't have to. I played it on normal, and for me, comparing normal from The Evil Within 2 to normal on the first game, it's apples and hand grenades. It's not even the same. The Evil Within, the first game, was brutally, punishingly difficult. Even on normal, especially on the harder difficulties. But within this second game, I felt like the difficulty was definitely ramped down. Now, it might have been because the maps are a lot more open, which is something I appreciated. It almost felt like you're playing like a Batman Arkham City or Asylum game, to be honest with you. There's a lot of environments for you or your character, Sebastian, to hide in, be strategic in the way that you're going to take out enemies or avoid enemies throughout the game. In the first one, it's very linear. Very few places to hide. You feel very claustrophobic the whole time. It's very horror, survival horror feeling. This one, it was like very action horror in many ways. The monster designs is something that was very much, I feel, skimped upon in the second game. Like I said, the first game, the shock value from the first game was high. Especially that was around the same time that PT had come out and everything else. So we're seeing all these twisted horror games come out that felt very much like the early 2000s or even before then. And this one, it felt like it tried to recapture that magic, but it just falls flat, to be honest with you. There's only a couple monsters within the game that seem resemblant of the first game. The rest of it seems very generic. Your generic zombie people, which for me didn't make sense because in the town of Union that you're stuck in STEM, it's supposed to be like a small, quaint American town, and yet there are like hundreds upon hundreds, it seems like, of zombie people for you to find and kill in this game. Now, I get why they did it, but what I don't get is why you're killing the same 3 to 4 enemy designs of zombie people throughout the entire game. You're seeing the same lady with the same green shirt over and over and over and over and over and over and over again. And that's like it with any other enemy in the game. When they start introducing new types of enemies, which isn't very often, like there's like smoldering fire enemies. It's the same enemy over and over and over and over again. The enemies, like I said, the enemy designs were very cool at the very beginning of the game, but by your 5th hour, you've almost seen every single type of enemy. And that just might be my fault. That could just be my fault, to be honest with you, because, like I said, 22 hours with me hunting down every enemy that I could find. Hunting down all the ammo and weapon parts. Not something I had to do to beat the game. I did it because I wanted to max my character out, and the option was there. I wanted to become the most dangerous thing in STEM, and by the end I was. In all reality, The Evil Within 2 being 17 chapters, if I wasn't running around trying to find everything inside of it, I probably could have beat the game in probably like 8 hours or so, maybe even a little less, because of the difficulty of the game. Like I said, you're not really that stressed for ammo. The first one, definitely stressed out for ammo. Definitely stressed out for axes as a melee weapon. Definitely always looking for that way to avoid enemies if possible, because they hoard you and there's almost no way to escape. But in this one, there are many ways to get away. You can have a horde of like 5 enemies chase you all the way up to a car. Here's the car, here's the enemies chasing you. You just hide. You literally duck and crouch by the other end of the car, and they lose complete sight of you and then just kind of disperse, leaving you open to just go quietly stealth take out one by one if you wanted to do it that way. So with that, it's very easy to cheat the game's AI because it's not very smart. The same thing goes with boss enemies. Let's talk about the boss enemies in the game. Very fucking easy. And the sad thing is, even if I were to play these boss enemies on a higher difficulty, it's not going to change the fact that the way that they were designed to fight you, it's not going to make it any more fun to have them at higher difficulties. It's not like their strategy is going to change or anything like that. They're just going to become bigger bullet sponges. That's it. Very, very easy, not complex patterns to figure out to beat boss enemies in the game. And I believe that there's 3 or 4, maybe 5 bosses in the game out of 17 chapters. So it is what it is. When it comes to horror games and boss fights, they're not the easiest thing to get down, and it's hard for me to really judge a game based on its boss fights, unless they're like completely fucking lame. These ones weren't lame, they're just really, really easy in my opinion. The final boss with Myra, it totally reminded me of when you fight the final boss in Dead Space, the Leviathan. Almost the same exact patterns. Hit here, hit in the middle. You shoot the little orbs that look exactly like the things that come out of the Leviathan at the end of Dead Space, and that's it. You've won the game. Now, I know it seems like I'm kind of talking down, but I'm just trying to give you guys like the reality of the game. If you're looking to pick it up and play it, or if you did play it and you never got my thoughts on it, I did review the first Evil Within game. It's up on my Patreon exclusively, if you wanted to see that. If not, whatever. But the second one, you're getting all my thoughts here raw right after beating it. And for 22 hours, I definitely feel like I am a pro in this game now. I can do New Game Plus, no problem. All of my weapons are fully upgraded. All of my abilities are only missing 2 final upgrades. 2. And that's only because there are certain parts in the game where you have to like time manage where you are at a certain point. Like flame walls around you, and you have to keep walking or the flame walls are going to close in, so you don't have enough time to go grab that green goo. Otherwise, I probably would have had all upgrades. I found all the collectibles in the game, which are all like other Bethesda and id Software title related memorabilia. Yeah, and I saved. Okay, so now that we've talked about the game and the mechanics, let's break down the gameplay. The gameplay for all the weapons definitely were fun to use. They definitely felt like they packed a punch this time. If you remember the first Evil Within, if you played it, the weapons definitely seemed very lackluster. Very, very, very pussy-leveled weapons in the Evil Within. And we're talking about weapons that you've fully upgraded, mind you, or you have the different weapon ammo types that should be way more impactful than what they were. They definitely fixed it this time around. The handgun upgrades that you get feel like handgun upgrades. The shotgun actually feels and sounds like a shotgun. It feels like you're holding it and you actually used one. The specialty weapons were really, really fucking cool. The flamethrower thing that you get, that's optional, by the way. That's another cool thing, is the specialty weapons are optional. You have to find parts in order to make them work. If you don't, you never get to use them and see what they can do. But they are worth it, I'll tell you that. The weapons, very fun to use. And like I said, you're never really hurting for ammo, to be honest. In the first game, you get swamped by like 5 or 6 different enemies, or fucking the chainsaw guy or whatever, and you use a shitload of ammo and you're kind of fucked for a while in the game. If not, you have to kind of start over from your last checkpoint. In this game, I never felt that press. I never felt that stress. So yeah, it's very much, like I said, action oriented this time around. The enemies we already talked about. Now let's talk about the story. The story overall, and key things that I want to bring up in the story. Because I'm going to say, obviously there's going to be spoilers in this. If you don't want to see this and you want to play the game, go play it. You got my rating. Obviously it's a good game. I beat it. I played it all the way through. Go play it. So from now on, we're going to get into the story. Full spoilers. So as Sebastian, you go into STEM because Morbius or Morpheus, whatever the fucking company's name is, wants you to go in and get your daughter. What you didn't know is that your wife is also in there, and she joined this company, Morbius or Morpheus, which apparently is like the Illuminati in this world, which I think it was cool. They expanded upon what the STEM project was, right? And what it could possibly be used for. Because in the first Evil Within game, things were almost kind of just confusing, to be honest with you. You didn't know if this is like, oh, is this reality? Is this not reality? It left you very confused in the end. At least it left me very confused in the end. Maybe I'm just not that smart, but when the first time I played the Evil Within, I was like, what the fuck happened? But this one definitely does a way better job of fleshing out the story, fleshing out characters. You get a whole backstory on Sebastian, which was never there before. Kidman comes back, which is awesome. And she's a badass. But let's talk about what happens once you get into STEM. You're sent into STEM, into this fictional city called Union. And she's been taken there by this crazy madman who's also an artist photographer, one of the boss enemies, who you kill pretty early on. Anyway, it's almost like the story kind of reminds me of something like Mario, for example. Mario defeats all these monsters and goes to the end boss just to be told, sorry, the princess is in another castle. It's very much what happens within the Evil Within 2. Sorry, your daughter's with the next boss enemy. Whoopsies. So you're left to play another like 10 levels or whatever to get there. What I really did appreciate about the story is that it had me entertained every time, or interested every time I had a cutscene. The cutscenes were very well done. It felt like I was watching a really well done horror movie. And like I said, the whole premise of The Evil Within is like a very dark Matrix. You know, instead of having your brain hooked up like you do in the Matrix, you go in these bathtubs and you sit there and your consciousness is zapped into a completely different place. And it doesn't matter this time, unlike the Matrix, if you get unplugged, you die. You get unplugged and your mind or your whatever, your consciousness is stuck in this world forever. So it's a very cool premise. But within STEM, things we've seen before can obviously go really, really bad depending on what person gets put inside of STEM. So if you're an insane person, things like the first Evil Within happens, and if you're a person hell-bent on fucking like world consciousness domination, and I say that because you're not going to conquer the real world, you're conquering the fictitious world that people get hooked up to, then you're gonna be basically like, you know, the Nazis, but worse. So as Sebastian goes through this nightmare land, he meets a bunch of different members of Morbius or Morpheus. I know I keep saying that because I keep on forgetting their name because it's really not relevant. And he meets different members of their team. Some of them are dead, some of them are not. You have options, which I liked this time. You had RPG options in this to save or kill people from this project on this team. You didn't have to help anyone. You could let them fucking die, and that's really cool. I like that. I like having options in horror games when it comes to RPG element stuff. The funny thing is, this game showed more RPG elements for choices than Fallout 4 did. There are major concerning plot holes to me once I beat this though. One, the black guy that you meet in the game, Sykes, or Skies, or whatever his name is. You help him throughout the game. You could kill him, but I helped him the whole way through. And by the end, he found a loophole back door in STEM to where you may be able to get out. But this is never touched upon after you do it. So the whole reason you saved him was to be able to get your daughter and leave STEM without being killed by Morpheus or Mobius or whatever. And that's it. You save him and he's never mentioned again. Giant plot hole. I've seen this written on the internet because I had to look this up right after I beat it. Was there DLC for the game? Is there add-on stories for the game? No. There was fucking nothing for The Evil Within 2 as far as DLC stories are concerned. The Evil Within had like 4 or 5 of them. So why the second one didn't have any? Like 0? I have no fucking idea why. But I saw this written a lot online, and I'm going to answer this right now. It's explained right at the beginning of the game, but I don't know why I saw this question pop up so many times. If there was crazy people that are inside STEM that Morbius or Morpheus or whatever put inside the system, why didn't they just unplug them and kill them? Because it's exactly what I said. When your consciousness is put into STEM, it stays there. Whether you get unplugged or not, your real body will die. Your consciousness will stay in STEM. So whatever damage you're doing inside of STEM, which this company does not want you to do, especially because their only power core or whatever, the little girl, Sebastian Sauter, that they're using is in there, they really don't want that to happen. So, I mean, unplugging the guys does nothing. So there you go, there's that. But here's the major plot hole. The major plot hole out of all of this And I don't know if you guys caught it or not, if you played the game. This is going on almost a half hour. God, I fucking ramble on like crazy. Major plot hole though. When Sebastian finally gets out of STEM, really out this time, it has been years since he's seen his daughter. He thinks that she's been dead due to a fire. He had no idea she was alive, and it's been years. When he opens the tank to get his daughter out, I was fully expecting, because you see the daughter all throughout the game. All throughout the game, you see her running around in STEM, and she's a little girl. Fully expected for him to open the tank, and she's gonna be like an adult, or a teenager, or she's gonna look all fucked up like she was a science experiment, like out of the movie Akira or something. No. No. She is the exact same age she was in STEM, and she's completely normal. What? I didn't even know what was going on by the end, to be honest with you. I'm watching the final cutscene, and I sit through the obnoxiously long credits to see the cutscene, and nothing's explained. You see Kidman talking to Sebastian, she waves goodbye, and that's it. And then there's one last scene where you see the destroyed bathtubs and the STEM project, and the computer magically turns on, and then you see the command prompt. And that's it, the game's over. No mention of the guy that you saved, Sykes or Skies. No reason on how to explain how the daughter is still a little kid after years. And last but not least, no explanation on how Sebastian's partner from the first game, I forgot his name, the Asian guy, the guy we watched die, how he's alive, and he's alive. He's alive. Kidman explains that he's alive. We never get an explanation. He's never mentioned again. Once. I looked it up. I had to look it up. Was there DLC? No. What happened with Sebastian's partner? I don't know. Nobody knows. He's mentioned once, in passing, that he's still alive. You're never gonna know why. It was made to sound like he had a bigger role to play. Some ominous role that he had with the STEM project. Almost like Kidman, a secret agent of STEM. You never know. You're never gonna find out either. I have a feeling that The Evil Within 2 was either so different from the first game that they're not going to make a third one, or the sales were just so piss poor that they're not going to make a third one. I mean, it must go to show that because there was no DLC, that there's not going to be a third one, which is very unfortunate. If there was a third one, I would love to see it get a little more of that horror kick. A little more of that survival horror kick. This time, like I said, it was very fun. I had a good time. It felt very Resident Evil 4 this time. Evil Within, the first one, felt very like Resident Evil 3. You know what I mean? It had some action in it, a lot of horror stuff in it, but it wasn't super great. This one felt very Resident Evil 4 all the way through. Action horror over and over again. You're killing, just like Resident Evil 4, you're killing the villagers, the infected people with their heads blowing up because of the virus thing, over and over. This happened like that over and over and over in The Evil Within 2. But there's so many unanswered questions that I felt like I got gypped by the story at the end. Especially because I put so much time into the game, wanting Sebastian to be fully upgraded, helping the optional characters to try to get them out of STEM. And it was all for nothing, is what it seems like. That's probably the biggest downfall of the game, is when your story is not very cohesive. The gameplay is, like I said, great and fun. But story-wise, what happened? Why did it fall apart? Why are there characters talked about and never talked about again, that you never see again after you help? That's made this sound like everyone has a bigger role in this than what they actually end up having. And that goes for Sebastian as well. As you upgrade Sebastian throughout the game, you see the same nurse lady, and she talks to you throughout the whole game. The nurse woman helped you upgrade throughout the first one. She's in the second one as well. And she gives you little snippets, a lot more than she gave you in the first one. She talks to you, she interacts with you a lot more. And she makes it seem like Sebastian's role in this whole story is way bigger than it's gonna be. And for me, I was expecting maybe Sebastian's gonna die, or maybe we're gonna find out that maybe Sebastian is the key to the core. It's not his daughter at all, and it was all a trick to get Sebastian there. It sounds like it would have been a way better plot twist, but unfortunately it's none of that. And because this game came out in 2017, it's 2021 now, I definitely know that we're not getting any DLC for it. It's sad, because it was a good game. I'd like to see a third one. I don't want to see it go down the road that Dead Space 3 went, where it went like fully just off the rails, no horror, Resident Evil 5 treatment. But yeah, it's a very confusing ending, very confusing story-wise. But for a horror action game, it was pretty damn good. Like I said, for the first 4 or 5 hours or so, you're having a good time because you haven't seen all the monsters yet. Your weapon abilities are still really piss poor. Simon's survivability rate is really piss poor. So it makes it a little more tension filled. You'll want to use stealth a lot more often. By the time though I got to like chapter 7, 10 more chapters still to go. But by the time I got to chapter 7, my character was pretty much almost, well, I'm not going to say unstoppable, but he's definitely a force to be reckoned with. And then by the end of the game, by the second to last chapter, I'm in God mode at that point. I've upgraded him so much that when enemies hit him, it's like throwing a pebble at him. And when he shoots his guns, he's blowing enemies' heads off in one shot, kind of thing, because you found enough weapon parts to upgrade your 6-shooter revolver all the way. And that's playing on normal. Like I said, I don't feel like replaying the game on a harder mode is going to make the game more entertaining, because the AI's abilities, including the bosses, is not going to change. They're still going to act the same, but this time they're just going to be bigger bullet sponges. So for that, the replayability is not really that enticing for me. The fact that there's no DLC, pretty shocking, I must say. Especially because how good the DLCs were for the first game, and that there was so many. For this one not to have even one, very confusing. But if you haven't played it, and I definitely need to end this video because we're going on over half an hour. If you haven't played it, and if you've watched this whole video, thank you. But if you haven't played it, go play it. It definitely deserves it. And the fact that it got this major overhaul on the Xbox Series X was really neat. You get to unlock the frame rate or whatever. So everything looks pretty damn good for as far as environments, weapons, monsters when they're really, really close up to you. It looks really, really cool. Especially the levels where they get really, really gory and like nasty looking. It looks really nice. So with that, I hope you enjoyed this video. This is The Evil Within 2 in 2021. If you watched all the way to the end of this video, type in something interesting. Type in, what's something you guys can type in the end? If you guys watch this video all the way to the end, type in justice for Joseph. Joseph was the partner for Sebastian in The Evil Within. I want to know what the hell happened with him. And Kidman, why the hell was Kidman so utilized throughout the entire game for cutscenes, and then at the very end, this is what we get? It's kind of almost like Kidman knows like she got fucked over and she was just used as almost like a placement card. It's just sad. Anyway, guys, this is Forrest. This is Retro or Die, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe if you guys want to, and I'll see you on the next game review that's coming out this week. Later.